There's a moment you don't even notice. A moment so fast, it feels like instinct. You are in a room. Someone calls you arrogant, cold, manipulative. Maybe they smile as they say it. Maybe they don't. Everyone looks at you. Your chest tightens, your pulse climbs. And before you think, before you breathe, you start to explain. That's not what I meant. You misunderstood. I swear I did not mean it like that. And just like that, you have already lost. You thought you were defending yourself. You were really proving them right, because the second you justify yourself, you have accepted the frame. They have the right to judge you. And you are now on trial. That's the trap Machiavelli understood before anyone else. Power does not disappear when you are accused. It disappears when you start proving you are innocent. They were not looking for truth. They were testing your control. And the moment you react, the moment you try to sound reasonable, you hand them the throne. Because in the arena of power, the one who speaks first bleeds first. Stillness, not defense, is what shifts the frame. Silence, not explanation, is what rattles the attacker. Because the man who does not flinch, the man who does not blink, becomes the mirror. And in that mirror, they see their own insecurity. That's when the room shifts. That's when the accusation dies on its own. Not because you fought it, but because you refuse to lift a finger. Machiavelli would say this: he who explains, submits. And the one who never does, he becomes untouchable. So the next time someone calls you out, don't defend, don't explain, don't try to be understood. Let the silence do it for you. Because what they fear most is not that you will argue, it's that you won't even bother. They never wanted the truth. They wanted the upper hand. When someone calls you out, accuses, mocks, jabs, or just jokes, they are not opening a discussion. They are starting a performance, and your defense is their spotlight. Most people never see it. They think defending themselves is strength. It's not. It's the moment the trap shuts, because when you defend yourself, you have already agreed to their terms, their language, their frame. You are reacting to their story. And that makes you a character in it, not the author. In power dynamics, the one who sets the frame does not need to be right. They just need you to play along. That's why they provoke. Not to get clarity, but to gain position. It's not about truth, it's about control. And once you start explaining, you are already dancing for them. Think about it. You are in a friend group. Someone says with a smile, "You are always trying to be the smartest one in the room, huh?" You laugh nervously. "No, I just thought it was an interesting point." You feel like you save face. But what really happened? Everyone now sees you trying to prove you're not what they just said. Which means, part of you believes it might be true. You're at work. A colleague says in a meeting, "Bold idea, but is it fully thought through?" You lean in. "Well, actually, I have run projections and talked to operations." You think you are coming off prepared. You are actually coming off shaken. Because now you are in response mode, not command. The message to the room: your authority is up for debate. Why? Because you agreed to debate it. Or at home. Your partner says, "You don't care about me the way you used to." You panic. You explain. You reassure. You repeat. They say, "I just don't feel it." And now you're in a cycle. You are not loving. You are proving. And the second love becomes something to prove. It starts to rot. Here's what no one tells you. People don't always attack because you are wrong. They attack to see if you will fold. They want to see if you believe their accusation. Because if you do, it means they have won. Defending yourself feels like strength, but it's coded submission. It says, "Your judgment matters enough for me to explain myself." And once you give them that power, they use it. They push again. They press harder. They bait you with silence, with sarcasm, with vague insults. Not to destroy you, but to make you react. Because every reaction validates them. Machiavelli understood this before the psychology books did. He did not just write about kings and courts, he wrote about frames, and how the one who controls the frame controls the room. And the easiest way to lose the frame is to try and fix it. That's why manipulators accuse you, not because it's true, but because it forces you to carry the burden of proving it's false. The moment you defend yourself, you begin climbing a ladder they are holding at the top. And the more you climb, the more foolish you look, because they never planned to pull you up. They just wanted to watch you sweat. So now ask yourself, How many times have you been baited into defending something you did not even need to justify? How many times did someone say something small, but the way you scrambled to explain made it seem enormous? And how many times did your own defense become the reason people started to doubt you? That's not strategy. That's psychological capture. From this moment on, you stop explaining. You stop performing. You stop accepting their stage. Because the second you do, they stop being the judge, and you stop being the accused. And that is when power begins. They don't expect you to stay silent. They expect you to flinch, to panic, to explain, to do what everyone does when their image is attacked: defend, clarify, justify, react. Because silence is unnatural to the emotional. It feels like doing nothing. But in the world of power, silence is not nothing. It is everything. When you don't respond, you create a vacuum. And in that vacuum, they begin to unravel. Their voice echoes. Their accusation hangs. They start to repeat themselves. They look for confirmation. They look around the room. They realize they're alone. Because the moment you don't react, they don't just question you. They start questioning themselves. And that's when you flip the room. Let me show you. You're at a table. A group conversation. Someone, out of nowhere, throws a jab. Oh, of course you'd say that. You love to hear yourself talk. All eyes turn to you. You look up. Still. Calm. You say nothing. You don't smirk. You don't flinch. You let the silence breathe. 2 seconds. 3. Suddenly, the attacker shifts. They laugh awkwardly. Someone else frowns. And now, they're under pressure. The room flips. Because you didn't rise to the bait, you rose above it. In that moment, you weren't defending your image. You were defending your status. And you did it with silence. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men are won over less by the written word than by the silence of those who seem above needing to speak." That wasn't poetry. That was strategy. Because silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's a weapon. And the people who fear silence the most are the ones who rely on control. And if they can't make you react, they lose their grip. The reactive man is predictable, easy to provoke, easy to play. He confuses emotion with action. He feels the hit and flinches out loud. But the calm man? He's unreadable. He doesn't reveal where the hit landed, or if it landed at all. And because no one knows what he's thinking, they assume he's thinking everything. Silence isn't emptiness, it's mystery. And mystery, in the eyes of the insecure, feels like danger. Because if you don't defend yourself, maybe you don't need to. Maybe you're too certain to care. Maybe you're too powerful to bother. And that maybe is what terrifies them. Here's the truth. Most people aren't afraid of being wrong. They're afraid of being ignored. And when you don't engage, you force them to face their own echo. An echo is the loudest form of shame. So, from now on, when they speak, you watch. When they accuse, you listen. When they bait, you breathe. And when they pause, waiting for your reaction, you give them none. Because silence in the right hands doesn't surrender power. It announces it. Not all battles require silence. Sometimes you don't disappear, you redirect. And when you do speak, your words should feel like pressure points, small, sharp, and impossible to ignore. This is the Machiavellian art of verbal control. 3 tools, 3 techniques, each one built to kill the urge to defend and replace it with psychological judo. The default move, the most powerful, and the least used. When someone attacks you, the average person scrambles to explain. But you hold. And the longer the silence stretches, the more they feel exposed, not you. They start to stumble, backtrack, soften. Because silence doesn't just protect your position. It forces them to unravel theirs. You say nothing. You just breathe. Let the room feel your stillness like a presence. Because the moment they start wondering what you're thinking, you've already won. Sometimes silence is not enough. Sometimes you shift the frame without ever acknowledging the insult. Let's say someone says, "You're not really a team player, are you?" The emotional man responds, "No, that's not true. I have done X, Y, Z." But the strategist says, "Interesting take. What do you think the team needs most right now?" No defense, no justification. Just a calm redirection that forces them to speak with substance. And the moment they have to explain themselves, you have flipped the burden. Now they're under pressure, now they're exposed. Another example, you always act like you're above everyone. Reactive response, I'm just confident, not arrogant. Strategic response, you seem emotional today. Short, precise, calm, and suddenly the entire room feels the shift. You didn't defend. You made them self-conscious, the most lethal weapon in your arsenal. These are responses so short, so clear, they don't invite more conflict. They end it. Let's build your arsenal. You think you're better than everyone. I just think differently. You're fake. I don't owe you authenticity. You're full of yourself. Confidence upsets the insecure. You've changed. Growth tends to do that. You're manipulative. Only people who can't be influenced say that. You're arrogant. Strange how confidence offends the unsure. These are not defenses. They are mirror blades. They reveal more about the accuser than about you. They flip the attention. They create pause. And most importantly, they don't beg. Here's the rule. If your response feels like self-protection, it's probably weakness. But if your response feels like a closed door, you've just delivered power. Bonus phrases for total control. Noted. Time will tell. If that's how you see it. Okay? Interesting perspective. Think what you like. Is that so? Each one is a verbal shrug. A signal that says, your judgment doesn't land here. The Machiavellian never reacts. He reframes, he redirects, he responds with control. And if he speaks, it's never to explain. It's to shift the temperature of the room. Because when you don't defend, you don't just protect your power, you multiply it. Most people are terrified of being misunderstood, especially in public, especially when everyone's watching, because public perception feels like survival. If the room turns against you, you think you're finished. But here's what Machiavelli knew. You don't need to be liked. You need to be feared, respected, or impossible to define. And that doesn't come from defending yourself. It comes from mastering the art of private power. Public shame is a performance trap. When someone takes a jab at you, in a meeting, in a comment section, on a stage, they're not trying to correct you. They're performing for the room, for the group, for attention. Your defense is the punchline they're hoping for. Because once you react, you validate the hit. And the crowd? It always sides with whoever looks more composed. Not more right, more composed. The office example. You're in a meeting, you pitch a bold idea. Someone smirks and says, wow, you've really got a lot of confidence in that plan. It's not a direct insult, it's worse. It's designed to make you look reckless, arrogant, naive, and everyone turns to you. Now what? If you defend the plan, you look sensitive. If you argue, you look flustered. If you explain, you look uncertain. But if you lean back, pause, and say, let's hear yours, that one move turns the attention. Now, they're the one under the spotlight. Now, the pressure is on them to prove something. And just like that, you control the perception without saying anything defensive. The comment section online, it's even dirtier. Someone calls you toxic, a manipulator, a fraud. They're hoping you'll panic, post a long defense, a breakdown, a rant. But if instead you post, people always call you dangerous when they can't control you. Now you're not defending, you're reframing. You've turned the insult into a symbol of power. And the audience? They start to wonder if the accusation was really bitterness. That's not damage control. That's narrative dominance. Misunderstanding is not death. It's fuel. Here's what most people get wrong. They think being misunderstood is dangerous. It's not. Being predictable is. The misunderstood man is watched. The predictable man is dismissed. When people don't understand you, they overthink you. They watch your every move. They guess. They analyze. They whisper. And that's how myth is born. You don't need to clarify your every word. You need to control your tone, your posture, your silence. Let the world try to figure you out. Let them project. Let them argue about what you meant. Because the more they guess, the more powerful you appear. So next time someone throws a jab, don't defend. Don't correct the record. Let them wonder why you didn't flinch. Let the silence hang in the air like a challenge. Because in the world of public perception, the calmest one is the one they follow. And the one who never explains, he becomes legend. The most dangerous place to lose power isn't in the boardroom. It's not online. It's not in front of strangers. It's in your closest relationships. Because when guilt is wrapped in love, when manipulation hides behind "I care," you don't even recognize the attack. And you defend yourself before you realize you were ever on trial. Romantic accusation. Your partner looks at you and says, "You don't care about me like you used to." You freeze. That sentence hits like a knife. You weren't ready for it. You feel misunderstood, unseen. And so you respond, "What are you talking about?" "I've been trying. I've been here. I've been doing everything I can." You say it with sincerity, with emotion, with desperation. But in that moment, you're not in love. You're in defense mode. And defense is not intimacy. It's performance. You've let them dictate the emotional tempo. And now you're dancing to their rhythm. You're trying to prove you care. And that very effort makes you look like you don't. That's the paradox. The moment you start defending your love, you lose control of how it's perceived. Family guilt. Trap now. Let's talk family. Your parent says, "You've been distant. You don't visit anymore. I guess you're just too busy now." It's not a request. It's a guilt trap dressed like concern. You reply, "No, it's not like that. Work's been insane. I've just had so much on my plate." And instantly the dynamic shifts. You're not being heard. You're being judged. And you're working overtime to change the verdict. But what if you responded with, "I see you're upset." Not cold, not cruel, just calm, still. Suddenly they're the one with the emotional load. And now they have to decide how to carry it without you trying to fix it. That's emotional tempo control. That's what power feels like, in the places where love usually makes you weak. The average explainer versus the operator. Most people explain because they're scared of being seen as cold, or uncaring, or wrong. But the one who holds still, who doesn't rush to be understood, he feels untouchable, because he doesn't beg for clarity. He values emotional sovereignty more than emotional approval. Calm detachment is not cruelty, it's control. When someone accuses you of being selfish and you respond with, "That's not how I see it," you haven't dismissed them, you've just refused to dance. When someone says, "You've changed," and you say, "Growth tends to do that," you've acknowledged it without absorbing their frame. That's not emotional absence, that's emotional mastery. What the Machiavellian understands, Machiavelli wouldn't tell you to be cold, he'd tell you to be unshakable. Because in relationships, power isn't about domination, it's about emotional gravity. The one who stays centered pulls others into their frame. The one who panics gets lost in someone else's. So next time someone says, "You're acting distant," pause, look at them, and say, "Is that how it feels?" No defense, no smirk, no apology, just grounded awareness. Let them fill the silence. Let them explain themselves. Because the moment you stay still while they spin, you've already taken the lead. There's a kind of man who does not need to speak. He walks into a room and people lower their voice. He's not loud, he's not friendly, he's not trying to be liked, but he's watched closely. That man doesn't chase reputation, he becomes it. Most people chase a good reputation. They want to be liked, approachable, agreeable, understood. They defend themselves quickly because they're terrified of being misread. But the powerful don't seek to be liked. They seek to be known without needing to explain. And that kind of presence is built through silence. Reputation built in stillness. Every time you resist the urge to clarify, every time you don't react, every time you let false assumptions sit, you're not shrinking, you're becoming larger in the minds of others. Because silence isn't emptiness, it's a mirror, and people project their own fears, desires, and questions onto you. That's where mystique is born. That's how aura begins. The aura is wordless power. Aura isn't arrogance, it's not ego. It's the psychological echo of unbothered certainty. It's how you look when someone insults you and you don't blink. It's how you respond to drama with the emotional stillness of a mountain. And the more consistent your stillness, the more dangerous people assume you are. Because a man who doesn't defend is either too guilty or too powerful to need to. And no one wants to bet on the first possibility. So, they default to the second. The elite example. You ever notice how the most feared leaders, the ones with real weight, say less, move slower, and speak later than everyone else? There's a reason. It's not strategy, it's identity. They've become their aura. Think of a figure like Vladimir Putin at a press conference. He doesn't rush to defend. He doesn't over-explain. He answers slowly, if at all. And the longer he pauses, the more the room leans in. Now, agree or disagree with him politically. That's not the point. The point is, his restraint is louder than most men's shouting. That's aura. And aura makes even silence feel like a statement. Aura isn't built overnight. It's built by repetition, resisting the urge to correct people, refusing to clarify to be liked, holding eye contact while others talk nervously, saying less, doing more, acting like your image is already untouchable until it becomes true, and slowly, the world stops seeing you as someone who needs to be understood. They start seeing you as someone who is already decided. Because power isn't always about presence. Sometimes it's about the absence of desperation, and the Machiavellian knows this. The less they know how to reach you, the more they believe you're beyond their reach. It always starts the same way. Someone calls you out, a jab, a question, an accusation. You are full of yourself. You have changed. You are not as smart as you think. It feels sudden, but it's not. It's a test. They are not asking for clarity. They are asking, how much power do you really have? And in that moment, most people do exactly what they have been trained to do. They explain, I did not mean it that way. That's not who I am. Let me clear this up. They think they are defending their honor, but they're really doing something else. They are signaling weakness, because the moment you explain, you validate the accusation. You say, without realizing it, your judgment matters. Your version of me is worth correcting. I need your approval to stay who I am. And from that moment forward, you don't own the frame anymore. They do. Let's recap what the Machiavellian knows. Silence confuses the enemy because it gives them nothing to play with. Redirection flips the pressure, so they're the one who has to justify. Precision cuts stop the attack without ever defending. Calm detachment controls emotional tempo, the battlefield of relationships. An aura makes you untouchable, not because of what you say, but what you don't. All of it leads to one truth. The one who refuses to defend becomes the one others rush to defend. Because when you stay silent, when you don't flinch, when you act like nothing needs to be explained, the room begins to question the attacker. Why are they pushing so hard? Why does he look so calm? Is she overreacting? And suddenly, they're the one under scrutiny. Not because you fought them, but because you made no move at all. You want to know how you win in the long game? You stop playing defense. You stop chasing innocence. You stop trying to look good and start acting like your reputation is already carved in stone. Because when people don't know how to trigger you, they stop trying. And when they stop trying, you become untouchable. So, here's the paradox. The final lesson Machiavelli would whisper in your ear. The man who does not explain himself is not misunderstood. He is feared, and fear is more useful than understanding. So next time someone throws the stone, pause, hold, let the weight fall to the floor, and watch what happens next. They'll wait for your reaction. And when none comes, they will feel naked. They will feel loud. They will feel exposed. You won't have said a word, but your silence will echo louder than any defense ever could. Because when you no longer explain, no longer react, no longer chase the frame, you no longer exist on their level. You have moved above it. And the man above the battlefield? He does not flinch. He does not explain. He does not defend. He defines.